Hello, everyone, and welcome to my Week 4 fantasy football recap. Um, Starting this week and for the remainder of the season, I am going to be doing my videos a little bit differently. Um, Instead of showing you guys the final score of the matchup first, before talking about my individual players, I'm going to talk about my individual players first, and then show you guys the final score. I just think that it makes more sense that way, and just will just make things go better. So before I even actually start to talk about my players for this week, I would like to mention that this was week 4 was my bye week hell. 6 or 7 of my original starters had a bye this week. I actually had to drop 2 defensive players from my team completely, and then had to cope with the other buys that were on my team. So with that being said, this was definitely a tough week for managing wise because of those buys that I had to deal with this week. Now getting into my players, as you can see, there is no Peyton. Peyton was one of the buys that I had this week, and I had to play Jay Cutler this week, and Jay, Jay Cutler, he wound up with 25 points this week. He was really tale of two halves. Cutler played like a Hall of Fame quarterback in the first half against the Packers, and in the second half against the Packers, he played like an absolute bum. So there was that. He did outscore Drew Brees this week by a little bit. So there is that. Jay Cutler, I guess did well replacing Peyton for this 1 week. Now I may try to trade Jay Cutler because I'm about to talk about my receivers a little bit, and my receivers are still well, not this week, but are still quite a problem. So I might try to trade Jay Cutler for a receiver. Victor Cruz had another good week this week with over 100 yards receiving. Wound up getting me a solid almost 17 points. Deshaun Jackson, on the other hand, after last week's big outing, had 1 catch this week against the Giants. I was really hoping that he would have a bigger game than that against the Giants. He probably should have. But Kirk Cousins was just not. Kirk Cousins was trash on Thursday night. He threw 4 interceptions. He overthrew Deshaun Jackson a couple times in that game, which I thought was impossible, but Kirk Cousins did. So there was that. Terrence Williams, who I just this week inserted into my starting lineup for Torrey Smith, wound up having a humongous game against the Saints. The Saints did do well on shutting down Dez Bryant, but that left humongous opportunities for Terrence Williams, who wound up having 6 catches. 2 of them were for touchdowns, and he wound up getting me over 25 points this week. Now here are the running backs that I had to replace my 2 normal starting running backs for. Fred Jackson had a pretty solid week. He got me 18 points this week. Just solid contributions to the rushing game and the passing game there for Fred Jackson. Now, Donald Brown. Everyone was raving about Donald Brown this week because of the matchup against Jacksonville, and he did not do nearly as well as I was hoping. He only got 14. And he just, I don't know. He just wasn't doing it for me. So I'm probably never gonna play him again, because that was the matchup for him to like do well in, and he didn't. Zach Ertz had another solid week with 8 points, which is about where I expect him to be, around 8 to 12. He did have that fumble, but so he could have had the 2 extra points there. But still a solid week for him. Sweezum, I don't even want to talk about the Steelers at all, so we're just gonna leave it at that. He got 6 points. My defenses this week actually stepped up humongous. Kansas City last night played rather well against Tom Brady. Had the pick 6, had another interception, and also had a fumble. Also, the Colts defense came up big against the Titans with 2 interceptions and 3 sacks in that game. So those 2 defenses combined got me like most of my points this week. Jared Mayo, another monster game for him with 10 tackles against the Chiefs. DeAndre Levy, one of the defensive players that I picked up for this week, since I had 2 buys this week. Had a big week, 15 points. He had 4 tackles alone and 7 assisted tackles. And Bruce Carter, another one of those pickups that I had to get for a buy this week to my defensive players, had a solid week with 10. And he actually wound up getting injured in that game, so I have already dropped him. Now we will get to my bench. My bench had a good week this week. I'm not even gonna lie about that. I know they did already. Frank Gore, who I decided not to play this week because everyone was ranting and raving about Donald Brown, got 36 points. And 36 points sat on my bench this week. I might also try to trade Frank Gore. This is what I plan on doing. I plan on trading Frank Gore and Jay Cutler for like an extreme elite wide receiver. That's my plan. And Torrey Smith had a touchdown this week, so he had 13 points, which would have been better for me to have him in over Deshaun Jackson. And those are the only 2 players on my bench that played this week. Everyone else had a bye. So there's 5 buys. 5 buys on my bench, and plus the 2 players that I dropped from my defense that had buys. So, yep. I had 7 buys this week. Now we can get into the final score. And this week, I did win by a fairly large amount. 209 to 150. Beat my original projection. I think maybe only this week and last week I beat my original projection. But this week I beat it by a lot. So we are now at 3-1. We have climbed in the last 2 weeks, because before 2 weeks ago we were in 7th, and now we are up into 2nd place. With a 3-1 record, we are actually tied for 1st place, records-wise, with 3-1. But the player in 1st place has a lot of points. His team scores a lot more points than us. So we are in 2nd because of that. And next week we are facing a team that is 2-2. We are projected to win by less than 1 point. But I was projected to win by less than 1 point this. Actually, I was projected to lose this week by 2 points. And we wound up winning this one by 59. So we're projected to win by less than 1 point for next week. And we're probably, hopefully, we don't, hopefully we're not in a close matchup like that, because I don't like those. As I said last week, I do not like close games. They make me nervous. So, with that, I leave you at 3-1 for this very young fantasy season. And until next time, good luck, have fun, and be safe.